Four in the key.
Welcome back, everybody. Four in the Key, episode 3, preseason power rankings. Well, before we get to it, got to introduce our starting lineups as always. At point guard, number one fan, Grant Smith from Oregon. Dylan Altman, point guard as well from the Oregon. And our head coach, the one and only Jackson Muniz, San Diego State. We got a lot to talk about, including a couple big trades. John Wall, Russell Westbrook, both irrelevant, but we'll see. We'll see what's going on with these power rankings. Jackson, let's lead us off.
Yeah, I'm sure no one will disagree with these rankings today. So let's just jump right into it. All right. So we're gonna start off the worst team in the league, Cleveland Cavaliers. However, Grant claims they're not the worst team in the league, and I'm gonna let him talk about why. I think it has a lot to do with that guy on the screen, but
Yeah, I mean that's the best 37-year-old, 24-year-old in the National Basketball Association, Thon Maker. I had him at 26. I mean, I think we can all kind of agree, like that back 10, it's not that deep. They're very interchangeable. They're not making the playoffs. But, I think they have guys like Kevin Love, Andre Drummond, Colin Sexton gets a year older, Garland gets a year older. Their young guys develop. Kevin Porter gets arrested a few more times. And, I don't think they're the worst team in the league. I have a different team as the worst team in the league. We'll get to them in a bit, but Cleveland's 26 for me.
There's a lot of bottom feeders there at the Eastern Conference. So if the Cavs pull out those games against Detroit, Charlotte, games like those, and the Knicks, they'll be able to be the 11 seed in the East, but don't see them going any higher than that at best.
All right. At 29, we got the New York Knicks. They haven't made the playoffs since 2013. Here we are 7 years later. I don't think they're any closer to making the playoffs. I think they should be kicked out of Madison Square Garden. The Nets should move in my opinion, but that's just me. What do y'all think? I know you guys are big on Obi Toppin. I think Dylan was. What do you see for the Knicks this year?
Best player in the draft, 22. It's 100% he's going to be the best player in the NBA or he's going to be a bust. They're young. I mean, I don't know if RJ Barrett's actually any good. He was not awful to start the season, then he was awful to end the season. And then they have Mitchell Robinson on like a 1-year, $4 million contract. So this is a big year for him if he wants to go somewhere else or if they want to re-sign him. It's the Knicks. They have Julius Randle and a bunch of scrubs. So they're not the best team. Obviously, they're very close to the worst team.
Just wondering, before we move on to our coveted number 28 spot, does anyone think Obi Toppin gets traded in 3 years for cap space?
I
hope not, but I think he will.
I was gonna say exactly that. I really hope not, but knowing the Knicks, they won't be able to develop such like an amazing talent like that. They'll somehow find a way to screw it up, and they'll blame it on him, and they'll ship him out, and then.
Well, we have to remember the only remaining member from the 2017-18 Knicks is Frank Ntilikina.
Oh, he's gonna be. This will be his third year, right?
I think third or fourth year. I believe fourth.
All right, so he'll be shipped out this year then.
Not that it matters, but Frank Ntilikina he's a good defender. He's a plus defender. He's just French Chris Dunn. But we move on to 28.
All right, 28. We got Oklahoma City Thunder. I think you could really make a case that they will actually be the worst team in the league, maybe the worst record for sure. Being in the West, they're going to play against all these great teams all year long. They do have 1 million draft picks coming up, but when you have a team with Kevin Durant, Russell Westbrook, James Harden, and Serge Ibaka, and you can't win a championship, I don't see how you're ever going to win a championship.
Well, I think they're cursed because they left Seattle. They snaked Seattle, so they're cursed. Yeah. Dara wants to make a remark that the Clippers should move to Seattle. I see it in his eyes.
I don't even think the Clippers deserve Seattle. But.
Anyway, well, my main point is
Tuscaloosa or something.
Dort might win Rookie Defensive Player of the Year, though. That's the only thing.
Dort is the best defensive player in the
league. Me and Dylan had a little off air. We talked about Shea, and I'm very high on Shea. He bumped up his scoring average from like 11 to 19, and Dylan argues that without Chris Paul, he's going to struggle to find his good shots. He's going back to playing point guard. He played the 2 primarily last year. I think Shea has another increase in scoring due to volume. I think the efficiency could decrease, but Dylan, what do you have to say about that?
I mean, like you said, nobody gets better without Chris Paul next to him. That's just a really weird statement to say the top point guard in the league won't make you like not having him there will make you worse. But also he's gonna attract the most attention. So he's gonna have the best defender on him at all times. Who is gonna score on that team?
Al Horford.
Al Horford. Yeah, right.
Amadou Diallo.
Dort, because he's gonna be wide open.
Darius Baisley.
Dort will shoot the lights out, and I mean actually shoot the lights out.
Of the building.
Saw what he did in Game 7. All right, let's get to 27.
All right, 27. We got another relevant team in Chicago. They did hire a new coach, Donovan, and they drafted Patrick Williams 4th overall. So we'll see. I mean, Zach LaVine too.
I really didn't like Patrick Williams at 4 because I think Patrick Williams, they wanted to compare him to players like Pascal Siakam, but those players get better because they're able to grow on good basketball teams. And when you just throw another slasher, big guy like Patrick Williams on a young team, I think they missed out big time on Obi Toppin. I think after Otto Porter's off the books, I think that he really could have flourished at the 3, even though he's more of a natural 4. But I mean, thank God AD signed the extension. Now that 5% of me that thought he was going home at some point is gone. And
5 years.
I think that the Bulls, if they're this bad this year, like we say, 27th, I think shipping off LaVine, make him happy, get some assets, keep building around Markkanen. I like him, and see what they can do. Kobe White is under contract for a couple more years, so I think they have good pieces, but again, with the draft pick of Patrick Williams, didn't make them that much better to me.
Their biggest thing, they need their young talent to develop. I mean, they need Markkanen to step up to like a most improved player level. They need Wendell Carter to develop more, Kobe White to develop, and that's when at this point in the rebuild stage, you need to figure out which assets are worth keeping and then which assets do we dump. So that's the point they're at, and it's a big year for a lot of their young guys.
Yeah.
Yep. All right, coming in number 26, we have the Detroit Pistons. We didn't really know. We had a lot of disagreement where we put Detroit. Dylan had him at 21. Grant had him last at 30. So I'm gonna let Dylan talk about first why he had them a lot higher than everyone else did.
Obviously, in previous episodes, we talked about how much we love centers as a Pistons fan. I know that Grant very much dislikes them because they got rid of the god Thon Maker. But let's look at it. They have D Rose, who was literally an asset that pretty much all teams wanted last year at the trade deadline. Blake Griffin, if he's healthy, this is the team here. If they're healthy, they are contending for the 8th spot in the East because the East is awful. So 26 was a little low for me just because they're actually going to contend. But Grant, why do you have them 30th?
Well, it breaks my heart because Blake Griffin's my favorite basketball player, but he's not going to stay healthy, unfortunately. I hate to say that, but with this roster, like you said, they have 58 centers, on the books. Sekou Doumbouya, what has he shown us? Yeah, they drafted good, but they're so young and they're just stinky. That's really all I have to say. They just kind of stink. I don't think
the fact about Doumbouya?
Yeah, what's Doumbouya gonna do?
The Pistons drafted a French guy, or
right? Yep, Killian.
Yeah,
Killian and Doumbouya. So they got a nice French core. They missed out on the great Nicolas Batum. They could have had 3 Frenchmen. But I just don't think they're very good. I mean, they lost Christian Wood and Thon. I mean, there's just not much to say about Detroit.
Yeah. They also added Jeremy Grant. In an expanded role, he could be really good.
$20 million for Jeremy Grant.
Might be worth it. Who knows?
All right, coming in 25th, we're gonna have the Charlotte Hornets. It might be a little bit more exciting to watch at least this year. They got Ball, obviously, LaMelo.
That's the main attraction on the screen.
Yeah, of course. Yep. And is that Ball? That looks just like him. Anyway, Grant, you also had him at 21, and obviously we have Charlotte at 25. You want to talk about why you had him a little bit higher?
All right. So as you see, this man's aged, by the way. Let's just give him a quick shout out. There have been 3 players in NBA history to sign multiple contracts with a $30 million annual value. LeBron James, Kevin Durant, Gordon Hayward, right? So Gordon Hayward, we talked a lot about him declining player option.
The greatest 3 small forwards of all time.
Yeah, 100%. But I think, with a guy like LaMelo, you have Rozier as well, Devontae Graham, Gordon Hayward. They have a lot of bucket getters on that team. And I think in the East, when you're playing Cleveland, you're playing Detroit, you're playing the Knicks, you're playing the Bulls a lot, they're clearly better than all those teams. I almost want to guarantee they're going to be in the play-in games.
I think for me, the most exciting thing about Charlotte is that, we're finally going to get that one-on-one matchup between LeVar and MJ. I would hope. So
pay-per-view.
Yeah, I would pay to see that.
Yeah, that's honestly all they're worth to me at this point.
They're terrible.
They were lucky being able to waive Batum. I don't know about the financials behind that, but I really like Devontae Graham. Definitely think he deserved Most Improved Player of the Year last year. But Gordon Hayward is at best the third best player on a winning team. So don't really like what Charlotte's doing here.
The jerseys, though.
Oh,
nice.
always have
Beautiful.
Then coming up at number 24, we got Sacramento. Probably the most irrelevant team in the West of the past 20 years. I can't remember the last time they were good or even like potentially good.
Who cares?
But they do have this guy. They have De'Aaron Fox, who's exciting. But other than that, nothing excites me about them.
Yeah, I think the biggest storyline is going to be his haircut. Like, who cares? Like, right? No one cares about Sacramento. I mean, nothing to say.
Ever since Robert Ory's just shut the door out on them,
that was rigged, but we'll move.
That's for another day. But I mean, Phoenix, Lakers, Clippers, they got to play those teams cumulatively. I want to say about 12 to 16 games out of the season. So that's that you're looking at 10 losses at least right there. And the West is not kind to teams like Sacramento, who let go of proven players like Bogdan and believe more that
Harrison Barnes,
Halliburton and Fox will be a better combo. But yeah, I feel teams, they're in the best division in the NBA. So
yeah, one more thing about their front office. Shout out Vlade Divac, like we said. They paid Harrison Barnes more money than Bogdanovich wanted. Nice. Yeah.
All right, moving on. Number 23, we got Minnesota. They had the first pick in the draft, obviously Anthony Edwards. So that's it's a good start, I think. And then they have Cat, obviously, D'Lo. Dylan, you had him a little bit lower at 25. What do you see about Minnesota this year?
The only positive that I have coming out of this is that Cat and D'Lo get a full year together. Cat's special. He's really a superstar, and he's obviously going to be the driving force behind this team. They picked a guy that said that he doesn't necessarily like playing basketball and that football is more of his passion. It sounds like a 2K thing where like he's going to retire after this year and be like, you know what? I liked playing football more. So I don't know. They're kind of just stuck in a weird phase where I just can't see them moving forward. A lot of offense, not a lot of defense. I don't know.
I like that you bring up that 2K reference because Timberwolves are always just one of those teams. They make all these weird moves. So when you're in 2K and you're just bored, you're like, you know what? I'm gonna see if I can ball out with the Timberwolves real quick. Just play some D'Lo and Cat. So I think they're not exciting again. They're just like Sacramento. Got some good guards with above average big, but I mean, Cat's a lot better than Marvin Bagley. That's not really a comparison, but they fall in the same category in that same bottom tier of the Western Conference, sadly, but definitely light years ahead of teams like, I would say, Detroit and Cleveland and Charlotte.
Yeah, and I think their biggest storyline this offseason was Malik Beasley. What a guy. I mean, oh, what a scumbag. All right.
Anyway. All right, coming to number 22. Speaking of questionable former first overall picks, Orlando is led by Markelle Fultz. What do you guys think about Orlando and Fultz for real?
This is like a recurring thing. Nothing special about any of these teams.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe.
I mean, is there even hope for these guys? Like,
there's as much hope for the Magic as there is hope for Evan Fournier growing his hair back.
Yes.
Oh,
Oh, that was a good.
I do have to say I love Vucevic. I really hope that he can find his way onto a winning basketball team, not in Orlando, because that doesn't exist. But I also love Steve Clifford. Steve Clifford's a really good basketball coach. I mean, they have a bunch of B plus B average players that Terrence Ross, bad contract, just all over the place, random players, Jonathan Simmons. Their whole team doesn't make sense. Just looks like you signed a bunch of veterans in 2K. So, yeah, again, another bottom feeder Eastern Conference team.
All right, let's move on to the best team in the league. Yes, first of all, jerseys are ridiculous. Right, they're so nice.
Beautiful.
Second of all, for the first time in a long time, I have hope for the Spurs. They have a lot of young talent. No one's really talking about what they did in the bubble because Phoenix always went, but the Spurs also did really well in the bubble. They were right there for the playing game going to the last day of the season. They went 6-1. The one loss was to Philly by 1 point at the end of the game. So, and the big thing is Aldridge didn't play. So they had to play their young guys, and there's much different style of basketball. It was more, play some defense, get the rebound, run and gun, go, just get the ball out. And they drafted Devin Vassell. He's going to help them a lot on the wing and the perimeter defense. And then Keldon Johnson finally started playing too. And same thing, brings a lot of energy to perimeter defense that they've been missing since Kawhi.
Trey Jones, did they get Trey Jones as well?
Say it again.
Trey Jones, didn't they get Trey Jones?
Yeah, and they got Trey Jones. Yeah, so a lot of long guard type / wing types where they could be really interchangeable. I'd be surprised if Aldridge is still on the team at the end of the year, but again, his contract's up and so is DeRozan, so they're gonna have all these young guys and they're gonna have cap space for the first time. So I like the direction they're headed, and obviously they have Pop. Best
And
coach
I like what Dar brought up, Trey Jones, because his brother is also in the NBA, and also one of the top 5 ugliest players in the NBA, Tyus Jones, also former Duke alumni.
I really like what San Antonio is building, because they're building a team where they have long defensive-minded guards, three-point shooters who they're not going to demand big contracts in their second come-arounds. Lonnie Walker, DeJounte Murray, Derek White. I really like Trey Lyles' game. They have a good young core, not a lot of young stars. So if they can offload DeRozan and Aldridge, have a ton of cap space, and attract, I don't know, San Antonio's not a very big star destination, but they would have the cap space and a lot of young pieces around them to be contenders for the next however long Pop is there.
Can't count on Pop. Yeah. All right. So some pretty big news this week, and as you'll see on the screen, Russell Westbrook was traded to Washington.
I actually had a request from someone for us to talk about this trade. So let's go through everyone's quick 60 seconds or less rundown of what you think this trade means for the Wizards and what do you think it does for the Rockets as well. Grant, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I'll need a minute to talk about this. It's such a who cares trade. I mean, Westbrook's definitely a better player at this point in his career because Wall, he hasn't played in 2 years. But I mean, for both teams, it's literally, okay, we'll give you our star point guard and, reset the culture, reset the chemistry. So that's what it is for both teams. Both guys wanted out. Now they're both in new situations. So, yeah, I mean, I don't think either team's contending for a title, but it's fun. Switch around. Why not?
Dylan?
I don't know if you guys could hear my chimes in the background.
Oh, I would have loved to hear them, but
it's the top of the hour. But they're clearly a better basketball team today than they were yesterday. This is a win for them. Russell Westbrook, I mean, as much as everyone wants to hate on him, and I don't necessarily like him either, he is a great basketball player. He's going to be a Hall of Famer. He averages triple doubles. And I mean, there was a couple things that I saw, but I mean, all of the players on that team don't demand the ball. He will be the only person demanding the ball. He will carry the ball. Bradley Beal is a perfect partner for him. And I think, like Grant said, the health thing is just much safer with Russell Westbrook than with John Wall.
Jackson?
Yeah, I mean, I think you guys summed it up pretty well. Neither team's contending for a title, but I do think Washington got better, especially being in the East. I think they could be a top 4 team now. And like you said, the guys he's going to be playing with don't demand the ball. even Beal, he doesn't need the ball too much. And then you got Bertans and you got some other shooters on that team that could just stand in the corner and let Russ do his thing. He can get to the hoop or kick it out for some open threes. So yeah, I mean, it's a good move for Washington, especially, I think, but I don't think they're going anywhere regardless.
Yeah, I think that this definitely got them going in the right direction because just like you guys said, they got Thomas Bryant, they have Davis Bertans and Bradley Beal. So 3 guys just stroke it from behind the line, and it's finally a ball dominant offense with Russ where you can go full speed up and down the court and get guys open, and it'll be just like kind of hopefully how Houston plays. I want to see them play fast like that. That's the only chance they have. They'll get destroyed in the half court. But I really like what Washington did, and we'll get to Houston when we move on to them later.
And I have one more thing. I just think Westbrook's really good for young guys. I mean, people always want to trash him, but everyone that's played with Russell Westbrook, you can look at, like, let's say Enes Kanter, for example. Everyone loves playing with the guy,
Right.
Paul George included. Like, just everyone loves playing with Westbrook, and I think it's going to be good for guys like Denny and Rui to see the work ethic of Russell Westbrook.
Yeah, that's right. I forgot Denny and Rui are also. I mean, they're building up, and I think Russ has a lot more mileage than people think. He's the recency bias. I mean, people bash on him because he's not 34 and 12 and 10. So
All right. And number 19, we have the Pelicans. I actually had them at 11, had them a lot higher than everyone else did. I just think in today's NBA, you need superstars. And between Zion and Brandon Ingram, I think they have 2 guys that could be top 10 players in the league. And then you add in, they got Steven Adams, they got Eric Bledsoe, they got George Hill, and they also have a lot of first-round picks in the future. I just think this is the team. And Lonzo, I know you guys love Lonzo. This is a team that has a lot of potential. It's gonna be tough for them in the West, but if these 2 guys can stay healthy, they can make a lot of noise. And they finally have some help around them. They're getting more experience. We'll just see what happens. I really like New Orleans.
yeah, go ahead, Tim. I agree.
All right, so I just want to say, you can see in this picture, Zion's looking quite thick, and as elite of a talent as he is, I mean, we saw when he played, he had that minutes restriction, he'd be exhausted. Elite talent, elite athleticism, but how sustainable is it? Like we saw with LeBron, I believe, when he went back to Cleveland, he lost about 20 pounds and you guys saw what he did in his 17th year. The announcers talk about it every 10 minutes, but it's still very impressive feat. I mean, he's been playing in the league for so long and he's still at the top of the game because he takes care of his body. Not saying Zion doesn't, but he should maybe think about, maybe losing weight and seeing if he could play more minutes and how it'll affect them.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, last season Zion 22-6, over 50% from the field, but you're right, just the durability factor. You got to play the whole season at least. Got to play into the playoffs if you're not going to play all of the games during out the regular season. But Brandon Ingram, certified star in the league now. Really happy to see him thriving in New Orleans, and just I love the Pelicans just because of what they gave to the Lakers. So yeah.
You owe them forever.
I owe them forever.
Gifted them, but whatever.
I actually had one interesting fact, which I'm starting to rethink my Pelicans thing, but with Zion, they were 19-10. They were 19-10 with Zion.
And
now they'd have Drew Holiday, and that's also a huge star to lose. And I know that he goes way under the radar, but he does so much for that team. And they also have a lot of cooks in that kitchen. There's a lot of point guards there. And for a guy like Lonzo who has no confidence, I've seen him bank more shots off the side of the backboard than go in the hoop. So I don't know how that's going to work out for him. But
I also that brought me to another point too, with them losing Drew Holiday, that took a lot of like physical presence away from especially the defensive end. But what I did like that I think is going to help Zion a lot is, I mean, they just got Aquaman to just bang bodies with everyone. So basically Zion, he's going to be playing against like the Trezes and the Keeps, hopefully for him. And he'll just be able to dominate like players that are kind of smaller, but still play power forward. Because I think he could play small ball 5 for sure for a few minutes. But at the 4, he's a menace. So I think the Pelicans have potential definitely to make the playoffs. They should be a potential playoff team. Them and the Suns are my definitely two cool favorite up and coming Western Conference teams.
And then coming in 18, we got Memphis. John Morant, Rookie of the Year, awesome. I love this dude. What do you guys think about Memphis though?
Yeah, I saw them destroy the Clippers live. I mean, Ja Morant's the real deal. Like, it was, obviously, scheduling, but I really wanted to see Ja play as well. And I mean, the guy just jumps out of the gym. He does not play at a 6'1", similar to Donovan Mitchell, where they're both undersized, you could say, but they don't play that way. And then the guy next to him, Jaren Jackson Jr., very unique skill set, can shoot the ball. Valanciunas, people forget, he's just a very, very solid center. You also have Brandon Clark, guys like Dylan Brooks, go Ducks. I mean, I really like their roster, and I do have them finishing as the 9 seed, which would make them eligible for the playing game.
Yeah. 8th seed last year, or they were the 8th seed for the entire year last year, pretty much. And I think they got away with the steal of the draft, Desmond Bane, or wherever they got him. He could be like the Kuzma of the draft. And when you're talking that late, you're talking guys like Kuzma level, where you're like, wow, this kid on a team where he can shoot the ball, they could be really good.
Yeah, I think they did a draft rights from the Celtics at 30th. So Desmond Bane, probably the purest shooter out of this draft class. Did not expect him to go that late. He carried TCU. So I love what Memphis has in John Morant and Jaren Jackson. It's a great combination. They've got a very bright future.
All right, at 17, we have the Indiana Pacers. TJ Warren is still recovering, I think, from that ass whooping that Jimmy Butler gave him, and they got swept. Indiana is one of those teams where like they're good. They don't have any superstars and they're not really going anywhere, but they're going to make the playoffs. They're going to be there and they're going to get swept again.
They're just meh. That's all there is to it. I mean, if you guys want to add on, you're more than welcome to. But I mean, Oladipo, hopefully he's healthy. And again, they made the playoffs without him. 5 seed. Sabonis is really good. I still cannot believe that Sabonis and Turner are on this roster together. They should have broken that pair up already. I mean, the stats show like they're horrible when they play together. They're both much better without the other on the floor. But they're just such a mad team. They're going to be like the 6 to 8 seed and get bounced.
They're literally the definition of white noise.
Yeah.
They will put you to sleep. That is how boring they are.
They are very boring.
That was a good one.
They just grind out games and they don't shoot well from the field. They have, honestly, the fact that post-up player, elbow spot-up guy like Sabonis is their most exciting player to watch just shows that it's a really boring team to watch. But they got a lot of great players that I think could be made use elsewhere, and I think that they could definitely get something in return to pair up with Oladipo and Sabonis for Turner and some picks maybe. But Pacers, again, like you said, white noise of the Eastern Conference. Never going to be bad, but you won't catch them in the top 4 of the Eastern Conference anytime soon.
I just can't believe Boston hasn't traded for Miles Turner yet.
Incredible.
Perfect fit.
That Gordon Hayward article about that, I hope that's not true. I hope that's not true.
Yeah, me too.
All right, they're boring. Let's move on. I think
Golden
State.
Boy.
I'm so sad. I mean, rest in peace. What are we gonna do? Who am I gonna marry?
Yeah, he got engaged recently. If you guys didn't know, Kelly Oubre got married. I think
congratulations to the most handsome athlete in the world.
I think that broke about 7 billion people's hearts hearing that.
At least 7 billion.
Yeah, but
Golden State is the most interesting team, I think, because you can make a case that they're top 10. You can make a case that they're not even in the top 20.
Right.
We don't know. We just gotta see.
I had them at 10, and everyone else had them a little lower. I think you guys had them hovering around 16. That's where it ended up.
Yeah.
Wiseman, I think, is really good. I think Steph Curry's going to have a ridiculous year statistically. I mean, I think him and Luka, those are my 2 favorites for MVP, behind Amir Coffey, of course. But I think this team's really interesting. Maybe this is the year for the 5th straight year. Is Andrew Wiggins going to figure it out? Who knows? They have Donkey as well. Good role player. It just sucks to see what happened to Klay Thompson. But yeah, this team is very interesting, and we're just gonna find out. But I think they're gonna be really good, and they're gonna piss you off when they're playing your favorite team.
I can't see this team being good. So obviously with Clay, this is a top 10 team and they're competing. That's just fact and that's what it is. But right now, can you tell me another person on that team that can shoot the basketball?
Steph Curry.
I said another guy outside of obviously Steph.
Do they still have Jonas Jerebko?
This is a shooters league and they don't have shooters.
They lost a great
bunch of guys that can bull rush the paint and look really good doing it. Zach Pascal, Kelly Oubre, Andrew Wiggins, they're all the same player.
What about the guy with the backpack? He can shoot a little bit.
Don't get it.
Draymond Green is a strap god, and I don't want to disrespect him like I just did, but they don't have any shooters, and it's a shooters league. They went from the greatest shooting team ever to maybe the worst shooting team in the league.
Yeah.
Well, Mooney's healthy. How about that?
I'm gonna note that statement, Dylan, for later. We'll come back to that statement. But go ahead, Tara.
I think that I like what Grant said. I think Steph is probably going to have the most, hey, I'm still here, remember me seasons in recent history, but they don't match up with the elites of the Western Conference. But I mean, Steve Kerr, as long as you got Steve Kerr and Stephen Curry, you got a chance. But again, with Donkey and Andrew Wiggins and Oubre, I mean, you got three guys that play kind of in the same area of the court all the time. And again, Wiseman, definitely elite talent, but what can you expect from that guy to give you in his rookie season and come into a situation like this where your offense is predicated around shooting the ball and you can't hit the side of the backboard from the three-point line? So.
All right, coming in at 15, we got the Phoenix Suns. I actually had them a lot lower at 20. For me, they're the Cleveland Browns of the NBA. I mean, I feel like they're always in the top 5. They all have all this young talent, and they just never do anything. Like, I know they're getting Chris Paul, and they did really well in the bubble, but I just got to see it before I buy into Phoenix. That's just
I'm really high on Phoenix because I've seen what Chris Paul does with teams. We saw it with OKC. He made the Clippers from the laughingstock of the NBA to the laughingstock of the NBA, but they make the playoffs. So, that's a significant plus for us. But I mean, you look at a lot of people, I forgot about it today when I was talking to my roommate about it. He's a Suns fan. They got Jay Crowder. I think Jay Crowder is a great fit for any team in the NBA. And I think he's going to bring a certain level of toughness, and hopefully DeAndre Ayton picks up on that and plays a little bit of defense because he's a very good offensive player. And then, Sticks at 10th overall in the draft, somewhat questionable, but I feel like he can be a good backup big. They also have Saric in that rotation. And Devin Booker is really good at basketball. Now that he has Chris Paul with him, I think this team's really dangerous. I mean, based on where I have the power rankings, I have them at 7th, but I definitely think they can end up better than the Warriors. And I think you do not want to play them in the playoffs.
That's a good point. You don't want to play this team in the first round of the playoffs. Chris Paul led team. He's got a lot to prove still. He's going to make Devin Booker. He's going to a lot more of an elite and a lot more efficient shooting guard than he already is. DeAndre Ayton is going to just show exponential growth after the PED usage. And I like their rotation players. Having guys like Jay Crowder and Dario Saric to just throw at people on the wing, offensively, defensively. They're definitely, just like the Warriors, one of those very intriguing Western Conference teams.
And I want to add in real quick. I'm interested to see who replaces the Aaron Baines physical tone setters in Phoenix.
No one can do that.
No one. Impossible.
This team can't get hurt, by the way. They're not deep. They're not deep.
They're not deep at all.
Hey, they have Javon Carter.
If Chris Paul gets hurt, and I hate to say that, I don't even want to put that out there, but if he gets hurt, like this whole experiment and the OKC 2.0 is literally the worst thing that ever happened to
But they have Cameron Payne and Javon Carter.
The Payne train? Wasn't that what they called it?
No, campaign.
Okay.
Moving on.
All right, coming at 14, we got the Atlanta Hawks. I have a little higher at
conference team. My gosh.
I had them a little bit higher at 10. I think I really like what they did in the offseason. I mean, I'm really, really high on Trae Young because he's one of the top players in the league and could be a top 3 player when it's all said. Top 3 player in the league, not of all time, when it's all said and done. And then they drafted Onyeka, the best player to come out of Chino Hills High School.
Wow.
And then they got Capella, they got Rondo, Gallinari, Bogdanovich, and they play in the East. So they're going to be beat up on a lot of bad teams. I could easily see them being a top 4 team in the East. I don't think they can win a title this year, but they're going to be the biggest improvers, I think, in the league.
I think those are 2 good points. First of all, their starting lineup is so good that they're going to beat Eastern Conference teams so bad in the first half that I think their lack of depth is only going to be shown once they get to the playoffs and lose against the Milwaukee, Boston type. But I'm really happy that finally Atlanta, after they had like 7 All-Stars in their starting lineup a few years ago, are back into it. So one of the most intriguing starting lineups in the NBA. And Rondo, hopefully he's going to bring that championship mentality to Atlanta, and they could beat up on some bad teams in the East, and maybe they can upset someone. You never know. You could catch the Hawks in the second round of the Eastern Conference playoffs next year.
This team screams B-Tech Warriors all over it. Bunch of shooters. They're going to score the basketball a ton. They're going to be really fun to watch, and I think that's I had them close to 14, so I'm excited for this team. ATL always needs a cool team. With those MLK jerseys, they got to be good, right?
Yeah. Quavo sideline.
And they got rid of those jerseys, so another good thing for them.
Coming at 13, we got Utah. What do you guys think about Utah? I mean, Grant, I think you had them a little bit lower.
I actually had them at 9.
Yeah.
I mean, when I'm looking at the West, I got the Lakers and Clippers at the top. We're going to get to Dallas later. I'm really high on Dallas. But I think we're going to see for the 4 and 5 seed, we're going to see Denver and Utah rematch. I mean, they were one Mike Conley shot away from losing to the Clippers in the second round. That would have been nice. But I think that's a really good team. I think, Mike Conley's not going to be as god-awful as he was this year. Donovan Mitchell's a great player. Rudy Gobert is a very good rim protector. Jordan Clarkson re-upped with them. He was amazing for Utah. You have the great Paul George stopper himself, Joe Ingles. I just really like their roster. I mean, you could, if it weren't for Donovan Mitchell, they're like the Pacers. They're just super boring, but Mitchell makes them really exciting. And I think they're just a very well-built team.
Yeah, I was watching Davion Mitchell a couple nights ago in the Baylor game, and just reminding me this guy can't forget his playoff performance. So he's a superstar. He's a certified superstar in the NBA. He's gonna be definitely a multiple-time All-Star. Rudy Gobert, you are a crybaby, but you do block a lot of shots.
Big COVID, man.
Yeah, that was bad. And so definitely they got a very deep, very open type of defensive. I mean, they're just a very well-rounded team.
I mean, I think the only problem that they're going to have is chemistry issues. I don't think that Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell like each other anymore. I think that relationship is it's done. They're going to move off of Rudy Gobert. Obviously, that's what you do. But other than that, they're a really good team. They added, I think their best addition this offseason was Dell Dumps. It's coaching staff move.
Oh,
Dell Demps?
Yeah. I think that's a really good move.
Lakers legend Dell Demps.
Yeah. And then also, I think the one thing that they missed the entire bubble was, I'm going to butcher his name probably, Bojan Bogdanovich.
Yeah. Bojan Bogdanovich, yeah.
But getting him back, he was super dangerous during the regular season.
That's
and
right.
Having him back is going to be huge for them.
I think Grant touched on it a little bit, but for me, they're the Indiana Pacers of the West. I mean, you got your superstar in Mitchell, but other than that, I don't get too excited about anyone on that team. They're going to be good. They're going to make the playoffs, and they're not. They might get past first round, but they're not getting the conference finals at all. And I don't see them getting any better in the future either. But that's just me. All right, coming at number 12, we got Toronto Raptors. This guy on the right of your screen, Malachi Flynn, will be the future MVP of the league someday, just like Kawhi Leonard was, because, San Diego State, we just produce MVPs. One
Final-
player of the league, one MVP. He's going to be the second, I guarantee it. What do you guys think about Toronto?
You see that acquisition. I mean, they lost two big men, Marcus Gasol and Serge Ibaka. They were amazing in the championship run. Gasol slowing down, but yet again, really smart defender, can shoot the ball. Just a really high IQ player. Serge Ibaka, we know how good he is. I'm not going to ramble on about him because no one cares as much as I do. But I do think Anunoby's a really good player, and we didn't really see him much on the championship team. But, he played a lot last year, played really well. They kept Van Vliet. They added the Baniak. I think he's actually for all the memes, Aaron Baines is a really valuable player. He can actually shoot the ball, grab rebounds, do a lot of dirty work. And I think it's a fun team. And Kyle Lowry, people are starting to actually respect him, which is great. I love Kyle Lowry. But I just don't know if they're, contending in the East for the title.
Yeah, I think this is kind of a relief of pressure year for the Raptors. Not as much expectations that they've had since their championship run. So that backcourt is dangerous. You could put up 40, 50 points every single night with that backcourt. They got a great defense. Anunoby, Siakam, Baniak will just destroy anyone that comes into the paint. So really Raptors always stand a chance with Masai as their GM. So again, another Eastern Conference foe for Giannis to probably choke to.
This team obviously got worse in the offseason, but this is a team that's getting ready for next year. Next year is going to be a big year for a lot of teams looking to get someone like a Giannis or any of the free agents that are available. And they cleared the cap space for it. They have space to go get a star. And after this is going to be like a prove it year. They did it with Kawhi. This team's not too much different. Now, can they perform well enough to make the playoffs and say, hey, you're this piece and you're going to make us right there at the top?
We'll see what Siakam does. He had a quite poor playoffs compared to what we expected from him. So we'll see how he bounces back.
Yeah.
Malachi. Rookie of the year.
Hope so.
Full Bulls rookie of the year.
All right, number 11, Houston Rockets. Obviously, they had a big trade this week. They swapped Westbrook and Wall. I had them at number 5 actually, and mostly because if this thing clicks, they're going to be one of the best teams in the league again. Now they have John Wall. They added Christian Wood, really good young player coming up, and they also added Boogie. We talked about it in the last episode, but Boogie can stay healthy. That's a really big addition, and I think they can potentially match up well with the Lakers because now you have Boogie on Davis, you have Wood, maybe slow down LeBron a little bit, but and obviously you have James Harden who can score whenever he wants. So the elite talent is there. We'll see. It has a lot of things have to go right for Houston.
I mean, they also have a first-year head coach. John Wall hasn't played in 2 years, and I'm a fan of John Wall, but haven't seen him in a while. I do think actually, contrary to popular belief, it's a win-win trade. I think Westbrook just didn't work there. He wanted out. It's just kind of a mutual thing. Like, it's just not going to work. So hopefully John Wall comes back, looks, what he used to be. That Cousins connection is going to be fun, but I just do not think they're a competitive team in the West regarding a championship.
Yeah, not a lot of spacing out on the floor there with John Wall and James Harden. And those guys are both 35-plus minute a game. So don't know what the Rockets are going to do with that backcourt. But just like Jackson said, if they got that experiment to work with, I don't know, pick and roll with John Wall and Boogie mixed with some ISO and James Harden, I don't know how they're going to make it work. But they've got the firepower to compete in the Western Conference, unlike most teams, which is kind of the hardest part to get. But that they're not over the hump by any means.
Yeah, the best team of 2017, 2018.
They definitely could be. John Wall, Boogie, and
But who's Christian Wood?
Yeah. What is he, 14?
I don't know. This is more of like, hey, Harden, we're giving you the keys back.
Why not?
We're gonna try to let you do everything again. It's gonna be great. He's gonna be scoring champ again. He's gonna have like 60 points like 15 times. my favorite player in the league to watch because he just scores nonstop. Literally has the ball in his hands like 90% of the game. But yeah, I agree. This is I honestly like I had them close to 11 because they had Westbrook, and I think that he's like the greatest like regular season player ever. I don't know. John Wall's health is a real concern. Dude, like when he tears Achilles, like slipping in the
Walk
bathroom.
downstairs. Walk downstairs. Thank you very much.
Well, so is Boogie. Boogie hasn't played in 2 years either. So I mean,
He played and
a lot of
then
question marks.
yeah, he's been hurt though. Yeah, we'll see.
They're compromised.
Yeah. All right. This is a team I want to spend some time on because we had a lot of disagreement with Portland. Me and Dylan had them at 6. Dara had them at 19, and then Grant I think had them at 13. So pretty big range when it comes to Portland. Let's start with Dara. You had them at 19. Why are they so low or high?
The reason they're so bottom in the standings for me is because they move while a lot of teams in the Western Conference got a lot better. And with Portland, they lost Whiteside. They got Derrick Jones Jr. and they brought Carmelo back. They re-signed Rodney Hood. I mean, this team has done the same thing 2-3 years in a row now, and it's an exhausted experiment. And I don't think that they're a better team than New Orleans. I don't think that they're a better team than the Warriors. And I think that if they played a 7-game series against teams like Timberwolves, they'd probably beat them, but definitely not going to make the playoffs in my opinion in the Western Conference this year.
I'll mediate because Jackson and Dylan both have them pretty high. I just think they're a middle of the pack playoff team. I actually have them finishing 8th in the Western Conference just because, they did lose Whiteside, but, they also made improvements. They kept the great Mario Hezonja, but no, in all seriousness, they got better. You got another year in Nasir Little. He's got good, can't think of the word, but he has, the assets to be a good defender, good basketball player. So we'll see what happens with Nasir Little. I was pretty high on him going into the draft, but I don't see a very high ceiling on the McCollum and Lillard backcourt. It's just too redundant. McCollum's and he's a good player, but he's just a worse version of Damian Lillard. So we'll see.
I'm gonna let Dylan handle this one. Go ahead.
I have them a lot higher. A lot higher. I think that they're the 4th best team in the West. I mean, Rocco was a huge addition for this team. I know that it's going to go under the radar compared to everything else that's kind of happened. But I think that's a great addition for this team. Dame's a stud. This dude is a hooper. He goes out and he plays his heart out every second of every game, and he hits the most unbelievable shots I've ever seen.
Bad shot.
But outside of that, I actually disagree with the Whiteside thing. I think that was a good thing to get off of Whiteside, just because we saw in the playoffs what happened when they put them both on the court. You can't play those two on the court together. And then help.
I like Nurkic more than Whiteside as well.
What was that?
I like Nurkic more than Whiteside as well.
I'm not a huge fan of him, but he is much better.
Yeah, Dylan does not like Yusuf Nurkic for no reason.
It's his face. It's his face.
Whiteside went to the Kings, by the way. Why'd that happen? Anyway, that's all I had to say.
Memory lane. Well, and also, they just weren't healthy. They weren't healthy last year. Zach Collins is a big addition.
Zach Collins is good.
Well, let's look back 2 years ago. They made the conference finals, right? And then, obviously, like you said, they weren't healthy last year. I think the regular season was a little fluky. They weren't that bad because clearly they made the playoffs, won a series. I think. No, they didn't. They won the playing game and lost the Lakers.
Yeah.
Sorry. Anyway, I think Rocco's a huge addition because if you want to beat the best, you got to be able to guard the LeBron James and Kawhi Leonards of the league, and he's a guy who can do that. And they've been missing that for the last 3 years. I mean, you can't. They had known before. Melo's not going to guard those guys. Come on. Who knows? We'll see. I mean, it's gonna be tough, but I think they're capable of doing it.
They're mid.
Yeah. Okay. Philly, we have them at number 9. They seem kind of stagnant to me, but I mean the Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid combo. I thought they were gonna get rid of one of them this offseason. They didn't. What do you guys think of Philly?
It's not hard to increase your coaching levels when you had Brett Brown as your coach, but I think we can all agree Doc Rivers does know how to coach a playoff team. He's good at, taking underachieving teams and making them overachieve. And he's good at taking teams that should overachieve and makes them underachieve. He irrationally likes players and plays them, even though it's just statistically shown that they shouldn't be playing. Montrezl Harrell in the playoffs. But like you said earlier, I think the Simmons Embiid duo is just not going to be it. They gave Tobias Harris a max contract to be a spot up shooter. I just don't know what they're doing. They got off Al Horford's contract, which was a big deal for them. They gave to OKC. They got Danny Green, and Danny Green is all the jokes about Danny in the playoffs. He's a good, valuable wing who can shoot the ball and somewhat defend still at his age. But yeah, I just don't think they're a very good team in the East. I have the Bucks, Nets, Celtics, Heat, Raptors. I think those teams are all better than them, and you can also argue the Hawks.
Yeah, I just don't think that they're there yet, and they're just not flexible financially. Danny Green, Josh Richardson, Joel Embiid, Ben Simmons, Tobias Harris, like you mentioned, they just way too much money spread across the board. And Simmons, if Simmons could shoot the ball, the project would work, because no one is as good as full 94 feet as Ben Simmons in the league. So, but he just can't shoot the ball, and therefore he's going to be in the same area as Joel Embiid. And Joel Embiid, how did Joel Embiid have to be the one to learn how to shoot the ball before Ben Simmons? Like, this shouldn't be the case. So Sixers, uber talented team, but again, not financially flexible. And unless they're willing to trade one of their superstars and kind of start from a little back, take a step back to take two steps forward, they're definitely not going to be title contenders, in my opinion.
I think this team is very similar to Portland in the situation-wise. But, I mean, if Ben Simmons plays in the first round of that series, they make it to the second round in the bubble. They make it to the second round. This is a team that's, proven that they can play in the playoffs, and they're pretty good. And I think that the one addition that they had that I liked the most was Seth Curry. Guy shoots 43% for his, career.
That's a big addition, right?
Yeah, and next to a guy like Ben Simmons, at least coming off the bench, it's gonna cause some attention to be pulled that way. So I think this is a team that has a lot of young, and Ben Simmons, he's one step away from being the best player in the league.
Yeah,
I've been trying to say that and make that argument for 3 years.
He's a jump shot away from being the best.
Yeah.
If he can just Giannis type 3-point shot.
He can defend them. He's an elite defender. People don't really see that, but
how does a guy who he can't shoot it more than 12 feet score 25, 30 points? It's because he's that good.
Yeah.
I will say, I think, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. My last point is the health thing is always a concern. Embiid misses 20 games a year.
Right.
Yeah. All I was going to say is I think that if there's a way where they can somehow avoid Boston and Brooklyn and just get to Milwaukee, I think they match up really well with Milwaukee. I think the team best equipped to slow down Giannis and beat him in a 7-game series. But I think if they were to play like Brooklyn or Boston, they wouldn't be able to beat them 7 games.
Yeah, that's a good point. Throw Tobias at him, Ben Simmons, and Embiid in the paint. Yeah. Mike Scott is one of the hardest players in the NBA. So I think that's a good point too. They definitely match up with Milwaukee.
All right, coming to number 8. Everyone else had them at least 10 or higher. Grant had them at 5.
Look at the shot. You see that? Oh,
what was that? Why is Reggie Jackson in that game, Doc Rivers? Don't get me started with that. But
you brought him back on a 1-year deal so they could do that again.
Yeah, Doc Rivers doesn't know what he's doing. But with Dallas, I think Luka Doncic. I had to watch it firsthand. After that series, I now hate Luka Doncic when I have to watch him play because he's that good. I mean, he's an elite. I think him and Steph Curry, I think those are my 2 favorites for MVP, especially with Porzingis being out. I did put them at 5. I didn't really consider that injury. But I just think Luka Doncic is that good. I have them as a top 5 team in the NBA fully healthy because of Luka Doncic and his talent. He's an inconsistent 3-point shooter. He shot 31% from 3, but I felt like he shot 80% from 3 in the playoffs.
He did feel that way.
He did not miss 35-foot step backs. I think he takes another step forward, and I think he might win the MVP.
Yeah, I love the way Rick Carlisle always coaches those Mavericks teams. Luka Doncic will be the best player in the NBA for a long time to come. And I think his 3-point percentage is going to increase because he's going to take a lot better shots this year. Took a bunch of bad shots last year, but he's still going to have to carry the load. But that's where he's at his best, with the ball in his hands. Maxi Kleber is a great defender. I really like his game as well. So good pieces around Luka. And yeah, I'd agree with you. I'd be high on the Mavericks too. They got a high ceiling.
No Porzingis for a month. That's the only reason I had them as low as I had them.
Luka's averaging 35.
It's a lot. That's Porzingis is a lot to that team. The dude makes like 40-foot 3-pointers without jumping. That's insane.
Well, I mean, yeah, I watched again in the Clippers Mavs series, like statistically speaking, like his plus minus, he was actually hurting the team, right? Based on the eye test, I mean, he was killing us. So like I can't even imagine like if he's on, he's dangerous. He's very dangerous. With a guy like Luka, they just complement each other very well.
Now that you mentioned it, they did lose Seth Curry, and they do still have Subway Surfers jerseys. So
No, those are gone. Those are gone.
thank
But
God.
unfortunately for them, Tim Hardaway Jr. is not gone.
Yeah, I would not opt out if I was Tim Hardaway Jr. either.
All
Luka's winning MVP.
Yeah, I think we should do a segment where we call out who wins.
Next
MVP.
episode. Tune in.
Yeah.
We'll be back.
Lucky number 7. Who it is?
All right, we got Denver. We have them at number 7. I had them at 14. I think they're pretty good, but
Can we reload that clip really quick?
I can't stand Denver. I hate them.
I
hate Murray. I hate this guy, and
Me
I
too.
hate Jokic. I
Me too.
hate Denver. I can't put them any higher than 10. That's why I have them at 14. However, if they do decide to play Bol Bol for 48 minutes a game, I will put them at number 1 because Bol Bol
Rookie
is
of the year.
the
Rookie of
best
the year.
player in the league. He could
Rookie of the
be.
year.
They would play him.
Rookie of the year, baby. I also hate Denver for obvious reasons because we don't want to talk about it. I can't even get myself to say it out loud. But they kept Paul Millsap and lost Jeremy Grant. They got JaMychal Green, who I love. He was one of my favorite Clippers. That's a really good team. Michael Porter Jr. another year, healthy, develops, maybe learns how to play defense. I mean, he's 6'10". Hopefully he can try. Bol Bol, I mean, I've seen him play with my own two eyes, and I mean, his skill set is ridiculous. He's an elite 3-point shooter who can score off the dribble at 7'2". So, I mean, I hope he gets some run and we can see what he's capable of. They get Will Barton back, who, wasn't even in the bubble. He didn't even play for them. Gary Harris hopefully remembers how to play on the offensive side of the basketball. I think they're a good team, but I think it was a fluke. And I know I sound salty, but I don't think they're a championship contending team, but we'll see. They're good.
I just think they're so deep and they've got a lot of firepower. Jokic is the best center in the league. I think that's undisputed.
Yeah.
I mean, you can say Joel Embiid is probably maybe a better one-on-one player, but Nikola Jokic is the best center in the NBA. And Jamal Murray, as much as I hate him, and after he did that thing to Lonzo, I thought he was a complete tool, but what he showed in the playoffs was something else. And especially he was taking it to LeBron in the Western Conference Finals, which is a big stage. Denver, they're really deep on the wings. Torrey Craig, I really like him. Will Barton, Gary Harris, like you mentioned.
I think they let Torrey Craig go.
Oh, damn.
Yeah,
They
that breaks my heart. I love Torrey Craig.
You shouldn't have. But I think that Denver, besides the Lakers and the Clippers, I don't see why Denver shouldn't be the 3 seed this season.
Torrey Craig is a Milwaukee Buck.
Ah, wow.
That's a nasty pickup.
That some more defense and load taking off for Giannis. I like that. Good job, Milwaukee.
This team went to the Western Conference Finals. They did come back 3-1 twice. It's never before. And Jamal, I think Dar mentioned it. He took the next step. That was like, wow, you're good to you're a star. You're like a stud. I do not like him as well, but he gained my respect. And that takes a lot because I do not like a lot of players, but he has my respect. And I don't think there's necessarily a bad thing with staying relatively the same. As a group, you get to gel better. And I mean, that team, the chemistry has to be off the charts. With coming back 3-1 twice, and now you get a full season again. I think they're going to be they're going to be a top 3 team.
Oh, and also Monty Morris, we forgot to talk about. He's one of the best backup point guards in the league. Just, instant buckets off the bench.
He reminds me of one of the Fred VanVleet. I think he's going to show himself, improve himself, and then he's going to get paid big time. Hope so.
By the Hornets.
Well, Dylan's point, I know they are bringing back pretty much the same roster, but a lot of their core is pretty young. I mean, they would get better, I would think, with age and experience. So that's not. I really don't think it's a bad thing as far as Denver goes.
Yeah, they did lose a lot of toughness though with losing Jeremy Grant
Plumlee.
and Torrey Craig. I don't like that.
And Plumlee.
Oh yeah,
Not that matters, but
yeah, now that Detroit can't use him as their fifth center, so.
We have a six.
Number 6, Miami Heat. I made the finals last year. Unexpectedly. I think everyone would agree.
Yeah, pretty cool.
Yeah, the path for them is pretty straightforward. I think. I mean, it's stay healthy and develop the younger guys. Jimmy Buckets will do his thing, and it's just gonna be a matter of if they can get another superstar next to him. Hopefully, I think maybe Tyler Hero could be that guy. I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, what do you guys think about Miami?
I'm down for some tampering to happen and them to get Giannis. That would be really fun to see Giannis in Miami. I mean, I like Miami. I like their jerseys. Really like these jerseys. And I really want them to be our rematch next year. I don't think it's gonna happen. I do think that like being that much stronger as a team and having Jimmy as the captain kind of was the reason why the reason they got to the finals was because they were in the bubble. But definitely don't see why this team can't go back to the NBA finals because they're just running it back with their same team. And hopefully after this season, they can get Giannis.
So yeah, they were, as we stated earlier, 3 games away from the coveted Mickey Mouse ring. I'm just kidding. But I think, when you look at a team like Miami, what's very underrated is, who did they add? Oh, they lost Jay Crowder. You get Bam is a year older. Tyler Hero's a year older. And Udonis Haslam's also a year older, by the way. But, you see guys like that and, what's Bam going to do after, what steps he going to take? Maybe he gets a little bit of a perimeter shot. Kendrick Nunn hopefully remembers how to play basketball because that was a pretty abysmal playoffs for him. But I think they're a really good team. And I do also go back to what Dar was saying. I don't think this team was built around Jimmy Butler being the number one option. I think they got Jimmy and they're planning on getting someone else. Worked out great last year. I mean, I don't think anyone expected them to go as far as they did, but I think they've got something up their sleeve. Pat Riley knows what he's doing.
Duncan is also the best shooter in the league, by the way.
Yeah, this was the second best team last year. Emphasis around team. I think the Lakers, with chemistry-wise, was the best team, and then obviously this was the second best team, and that's why they made the finals. I think Crowder is a huge loss. I think that there was multiple times in all their playoff series where he hit a lot of really clutch threes for them down the stretch that they're going to miss. And the East last year was just horrific. They were awful. And the East got significantly better. They're going to lose a lot of these close games that they had with a lot of the Eastern Conference teams. It's going to be like the Hawks, like a close game with the Hawks is probably going to go the Hawks' way just because I think they can score the ball a little better.
Okay, moving on to number 5, we got the Boston Celtics. I think we talked about them a lot in the first 2 episodes, Boston, about their offseason. What do you want to recap it real quick? What do you guys think?
Just can't figure these guys out. I think paying Jason Tatum was definitely the right move. You definitely want to solidify someone that young and that proven, but them not going out and getting a big name center, someone like Miles Turner, I don't see why they didn't do it. They had so many assets. I didn't like what they did in the draft, but Brad Stevens, probably, I think, in my opinion, the best coach in the NBA. And they've got Kemba, they've got Jaylen Brown, they've got Jason Tatum, and that took them pretty far in the past couple seasons. So I think that this is one of the rare times that the Celtics make a mid-season move. But if they don't, I still see them being able to compete because I don't see Milwaukee or Miami or Brooklyn being that much better than them.
Yeah, that trio that you said, Kemba, Brown, Tatum, is why they're in this top 5.
Yeah.
They're just that good together, those three, to make them a top 5 team. But with broken record, they didn't make the moves year after year. They should have got Miles Turner, and that probably would have made them a top 3 team. But they'll sit at 5 and they won't make the finals, and it'll be the same thing unless they make the move that Dar's talking about.
I think for me, Jaylen Brown's gonna be X factor because you have Kemba. I think he's a superstar. Tatum's well on his way, I think, and Brown took that step forward last year. He was still pretty consistent, I think, but it was a lot better than the year before. If you can take that another step again, and you have 3 all-star top 15 players in the league, then they're gonna be tough for anyone to beat. But it really comes down to Jaylen Brown for me.
Yeah, I just think Tatum. I think Tatum's unbelievable. Hopefully Kemba was kind of terrible in the playoffs too. We just had some games where he disappeared. I just think Tatum's a really good talent, and Tristan Thompson's an interesting pickup. I don't think he's like elite by any means at center, but clearly they're trying to address it. I just think I don't know why Miles Turner's not on the Celtics yet, but depends. I think Brown is a very important piece, as Jackson said. If he takes a similar step the way Tatum did, they're dangerous.
Jeff Teague was a good pickup as well. Backup too.
Brad Wanamaker is the best.
Yeah, that's a journeyman. Played in Europe for pretty much his whole pro career. But Robert Williams, maybe they have some faith in him. They have a couple foreign guys that they really like at the bigs. So not sure. Maybe they're waiting for the right guy to come along, but they've been waiting for the right guy to come along for a long time now. And I think that locking up Jason Tatum definitely gave them a little bit longer to time frame to decide what they want to do for the foreseeable future with guys like Kemba and getting a big.
That was dirty, by the way.
Yeah, Paul George is the worst player in the NBA.
All right, coming in number 4, we got Brooklyn.
Can't wait to watch these guys play.
Yeah, a lot of unknowns with them, though, obviously. I mean, Kyrie didn't play at all last year, neither did KD. A lot of the 2 of the top probably 6 or 7 players when they're healthy, Durant especially. But who knows? Again, they haven't played together. Brooklyn was still decent last year without either of those 2 guys. But if it clicks with these guys, it's still healthy. I think they're the best team in the East.
Yeah, I don't get the disrespect. People love to just say whatever about Kyrie Irving and speak down on his name. He is so good, and if he stays healthy, and again, people want to say he's a locker room cancer, this and that. He wants to go play with his best friend. I don't see how it could go wrong. Kevin Durant, hopefully, if he comes back, and I really hope he does, he is so good. He's literally unstoppable. I mean, with his size, almost 7 feet, shoots over everyone. And again, like you said, they've got guys like LeVert, Dinwiddie, Jared Allen. They've got, I think they brought back Harris. They've got a great team, and I think with that coaching staff, I think that might be an X factor. Like that could be one of the biggest X factors. But I think them and Milwaukee, those are the 2 teams coming out of the East.
Yeah, I really like what Brooklyn has on paper. They don't have any holes. They got their bigs in Jared Allen and DeAndre Jordan. They got their mega superstars. And let's not forget, Spencer Dinwiddie is definitely a 20-point per game scorer. And so just looking at their rotation, they match up just like the Lakers do. They got really big star power in their starting lineup. And then they have a lot of proven guys in their second unit that just would start on any other team. But if those guys are able to be okay with taking upon that role, taking a step back to the Kyrie KD show, then they're going to be a really, really, really dangerous team for many years to come.
Yeah, I mean, they have the Grim Reaper. KD is that guy. He's just one of the most gifted scorers we're going to ever see.
Yeah.
But
not the most gifted scorer.
He's the Reaper.
But I think that's a huge question mark. And I know that we like to say with new sciences and stuff that his injury is just gone. And I know that everyone's saying that it's, a thing of the past, but I think one person in the history of the league has averaged similar numbers after an Achilles injury like that.
Dominique.
He
Dominique.
was Dominic.
Yeah, it's because the science behind it is, the left Achilles is like the leaping leg for a right-handed shooter. Durant hurt his right Achilles, similar to Dominique Wilkins. So that's how Wilkins was able to come back and still be elite. So that's what we're hoping for with Kevin Durant.
Yeah, I hope that he's healthy. I think it's just a huge question mark. And we saw with already Clay with him, there's some things to be worried about, but I hope that he's as healthy as possible. Because yeah, you guys are right. They're the best team in the East if he is.
Well, I think for his health, as far as his health goes, he's had 18 months now to recover. I think it's helped that he's had a lot. He didn't have to rush back and try to start of a season. The bubble, just the whole COVID thing actually helped him get healthier, and he'll come back at full strength. And then second, I really hope they don't get Harden. I think they're really good how they are right now. I think Harden would totally ruin. They would get rid of all those role players you guys talked about, and it would just be these three superstars that kind of need the ball. So we'll see what happens. I just don't think Harden fits with them.
I agree.
I don't think that. Yeah, I don't think another star like that's ball dominant would fit with them. But if they were able to land one of those guys like Rocco, who are defensive-minded stars, but they already have those guys, and those guys they have they're very young as well. So no reason for Brooklyn to shake up kind of the most beautiful roster on paper that I've seen in a long, long time.
All right, on to number 3.
Number 3, Milwaukee. I have them number 3 as well, but I don't know. They were the huge favorite the last 2 years in the East, and neither year they made the finals. And I'm starting to get the feeling that Giannis is just a regular season superstar. But when it comes down to it in a 7-game series, they just can't get it done. I know they traded for Drew Holiday, so that's going to help him out.
That's their X factor.
Yeah, but we'll see. We'll see.
I think they definitely get to the Eastern Conference Finals this year. I mean, I do think it's them in Brooklyn, barring everyone staying healthy, staying safe. But it's a big year. Bogdanovich was a big deal in helping to keep Giannis, and that fell through. So him and Drew Holiday are on contract years. So if they don't get it done this year, I think it is over Milwaukee.
Yeah, I really like this team on paper. I think a lot of the times when we were talking about this team and why they couldn't take that next step over the hump was the fact that they had Bledsoe doing similar stuff to what Giannis was doing, which is bull rushing the paint, except he's just way smaller. And I think that Drew, and why I moved down the Pelicans, is a really underrated star in this league. He's going to make Giannis look so good. And Giannis is going to probably return the favor with kicking it out to him. I mean, there's been multiple times where Drew just killer shot 3-point. It's going to look really good. And I think this team, as long as they're healthy, are going to be up there with the Nets.
Yeah, they arguably have one of the best big threes in the NBA. Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton, Giannis. Those are all guys that get paid the big bucks, but those are all proven guys, playoff performers. But I don't know. It just every season it doesn't make sense that the Bucks don't get to the NBA Finals.
Yeah.
And I think that Drew Holiday on the All the Smoke podcast, they always ask the guys, their guests at the end of every episode, they go, "Who's the most underrated player in the NBA?" They all go, "Drew Holiday." It's because on the offensive end, he's just a nightmare matchup. He's way too big for small guards to guard, and he's too good of a shooter for bigger guys to guard. And then defensively, he can guard basically 1 through 4. Now that the 4 in the NBA is like 6'6". So Milwaukee definitely should make the finals this year after what they did in the offseason. If they don't, Grant's right. It's just a complete Giannis gone, Drew somewhere else, and Chris Middleton will be the best player on the Bucks for the next 10 years.
Yeah, and then real quick for me, I think the biggest thing about having Drew Holiday now is you have a guy who can have the ball in his hands at the end of a game, at a close game. And before, they really didn't give the ball to Giannis because he's not a shooting threat. He's just going to drive. They're just going to pack the paint. So they give it to Middleton, who Middleton's good, but I don't really think you want him with the ball in his hands at the end of the game either. Holiday, at least, he can shoot it, he can drive it, he can kick it out, he can do it, all these things. He's a much bigger threat. against these better teams when the game's on the line, in my opinion. But again, we'll see. They've been heavily favored the last 2 years again, and neither year they made the finals. So it's do or die this year, like as Grant said.
On to JV.
All right, Grant, take it away.
So this is JV's at number 2, right? We got the Los Angeles Clippers. I added something to the slide for Dara. I got some flair to it.
Oh my.
Yeah.
I thought I was seeing just bad. I thought I was having a nightmare, just seeing double or triple. But
we talk about on paper the paper champs. Last year the Clippers were easily paper champs. They had the best offseason anyone could fathom, and now it seems like the narratives have gone complete 180. Now it's the Clippers have the chemistry issues, and regarding last offseason was the Lakers have chemistry issues, but now it's completely 180. And as an optimistic Clipper fan, I'm hoping that the results also 180. But on paper, the Lakers definitely have a better roster. They added more pieces, but I think Harrell was addition by subtraction. That's nice. I like that. But I watched the playoffs. He was not fun to watch in the playoffs. I think Ibaka is a big upgrade at center. Now we have him and Zubats. There's no defensive holes in the paint anymore. You had a guy like Luke Kennard who averaged 16 points. Hopefully he's healthy. That's the biggest issue with him. Lou Williams still going to average 18. I think JaMychal Green's a big loss, though. I think that's their biggest loss. We're going to see who they add at the 4. I think they're going to have to play their younger guys such as Kabengele or Oturu, who they just drafted. But, I think, again, when you have an elite talent like Kawhi Leonard and a streaky elite talent like Paul George, if it comes together at the right time and that team is hot, you don't want to see them in a 7-game series. But, again, as good as they are when they're hot, they looked pretty terrible when they were cold. So hopefully the coaching staff being changed was the thing that they needed to take them over the hump.
Yeah, I think it's honestly up to Paul George if that team is going to be a title team or not. It's Kawhi Leonard. You know what you're going to get from him for 42 regular season games. But if Paul George can be the Paul George that we know him to be, then the Clippers stand every shot against the Lakers. But I think that they're going to be right there in the Western Conference Finals matchup, just like we want them to be with. And hopefully we can get a star-studded Western Conference Finals.
I want to let someone else talk really quick, but I mean, it's just so hard to fathom. I think in my heart, I watched them play all year. If they beat Denver in the 5th game, let's say they closed it out in the 5th game, I'm very confident that they would have beat the Lakers. But after watching them play games 5, 6, and 7, that team I've never seen play before. The way they collapsed, it was one of the most peculiar things I've ever seen. Like Denver, all the power in the world to them, but that was a historic collapse. Like Kawhi not even scoring in the 4th quarter, way off P, all of that. I mean, I've never seen a collapse that horrible. But again, I've seen them play, and when they're on, they are the best team in the league. But they have to be on consistently if they want to win a title.
There's a lot of egos there. I don't yes, getting rid of Trez is, I think, important. I think the Lakers also upgraded, obviously. I'm going to say that. But Luke Kennard, Serge Ibaka, great additions. Obviously, you're better. But what's going to keep them at 2 and it's not going to make them 1 is the team across the hallway did that much more to stay on top. The Lakers made the moves that the Clippers needed to make. And they didn't. That's going to be the distinction between what happened. This is going to be a really, really interesting year with the way that everyone decides to play and how many games they play. And I know that chemistry was an issue last year. I mean, is Kawhi going to play? Is PG going to play with the 72 games? And they didn't. I mean, their offseason was longer, but still not that long. It's going to be really interesting. I think the Clippers obviously are better today than they were when they got knocked out. But you still don't have a point guard.
That's not true.
I know you love Pat Bev.
I mean, we could deep dive into the stats, but I mean, we're already running pretty long on this show. He's one of the best spot-up shooters in the NBA. If you watched him play before he got to the NBA, he can create his own shot. That's just not his game at this level of basketball. He's an all-defensive level defender. I mean, he can facilitate the ball. I know Dara just can't wait to say he's the worst.
Okay, enough of the JV talk. Enough of the JV. Can we get to the varsity team, please?
All right. Yeah, I mean, we're just going to keep the conversation. So we can switch slides.
Pretty much. Yeah, let's switch slides. All right. So number 1, Lakers. What do you guys think? What do you guys think? Should I save my Laker rant for the beginning or the end?
I think you go first.
Go first. I want to see your Laker rant.
I want to hear Jackson talk about the Lakers because I know I despise these guys. I want to hear what Jackson's got.
I didn't write that fraud thing, but I do think
Who wrote that?
I didn't write that. It wasn't me, but I do somewhat agree with that because well, let me go through it. 1, they won in the bubble. I don't know how much that counts. They did win, but whatever. All right. They played Portland in the first round. Portland was gassed. They had no chance. And Portland's a good team, as I mentioned earlier. I think they're a really good team. So that series against Portland doesn't count because they had to win like 12 games in a row just to get to the Lakers. And Dame was playing 47 minutes a game, averaging 35 points. He had nothing left. Sorry. Next, you played Denver, who also had 3 straight series that went to 7 games.
Second round.
Overtime. Houston doesn't count. Houston sucks. Houston never wins anything.
I love Jackson.
Third, okay. Did I talk about? I did. Yeah. Denver didn't count either because Denver sucks. Like, you beat Denver. Finally, you played the Miami Heat. All right. Miami Heat, who didn't have Bam or other dude, Dragic, for like half the series, and they still took 2 games from you guys. Are you kidding me? Are you serious right now? They won 2 games. And okay, finally, they didn't play the Clippers. The Clippers, okay, if you guys play the Clippers this year, that's a matchup nightmare because not only do Lakers have 0 shooting, the Clippers now added Ibaka, who can guard AD. And they have George and Leonard, who can just rotate on LeBron and keep one of those guys fresh.
Marcus Morris.
And no one else like scares me on the Lakers that can score. So if you're slowing down those 2 superstars, which you have, like I said, you have Kawhi, you have Paul George, and Serge, 3 really, really good defenders, and Marcus Morris occasionally, who can just get in his head. I really don't see the Lakers beating the Clippers in a 7-game series.
So
I had the Clippers number 1. I'm the only one that had them number 1. But again, I did not write fraud. That was
before the Lakers fans go. I do want to say I think they have a guy like Schroeder, that instant offense thing is similar to Lou Williams, where it's like, oh, we have someone struggling. Boom, throw Schroeder and get you some buckets. Harrell's another guy who's instant offense. I think both teams got better by, the Clippers needed to get rid of the Clutch Sports double agent, Rich Paul himself. So they didn't offer Harrell a contract. And I think he plays better in a Lakers uniform. He's more motivated. I think that's a good pickup for them. But, I want to give you guys the floor, but as much as I despise the Los Angeles Lakers, you have to give them the credit. They won the title. And they got better. What are we going to say about the bubble? Hey, they still got it. What are you going to do? So I give them the number 1 spot in the preseason because they won it all. I have to give them their respect, unfortunately.
Okay. Well, real quick, I still think they had a cakewalk finals. But anyway.
They did, but that's not their fault.
Let me go back. It's not their fault. Let me go back to what
we choked.
Dylan said maybe at the beginning of the show. You said something about shooting in this NBA. What would you say about that?
I said that the Warriors are going to be the worst shooting team outside. Like, that's obviously outside of Steph Curry.
You said something like they need this NBA. You need to be able to shoot the ball.
Yeah.
Who on the Lakers can shoot the ball, or even just spread the floor?
Anthony Davis.
Are you kidding me? Who's
40% from 3-point. KCP shot 40% from 3-point.
KCP's terrible.
What did AD shoot?
He's terrible. He didn't even play.
Hold on. What did AD shoot, Dylan? I'm sorry.
He shot something close to 40% from 3.
In the playoffs or in the regular season?
In the playoffs.
Okay. Because the bubble, I think it's a controlled environment. It's very different. From what I do know, AD was like a 32% 3-point shooter. Inconsistent, but I mean, in the playoffs, he was an elite shooter. I don't know if he can keep up that pace. But,
I think it's a little different, though, because he's a main guy. I'm talking like role players who can spread the floor and create space.
ATP was strapping ever since he got bullied the first 10 games because the Lakers fan base loves their death threats and, this guy sucks. So, Avery Bradley, I know a certain guy who posted a thing on their story saying, I hate you, Avery Bradley, etc. You're a fraud. I forgot who did that. Oh, Stara.
Yeah. So, I mean, if
Go
you
ahead.
talk about the shooting thing, I think the Lakers addressed that issue this offseason. They went out and got Dennis Schroeder, great three-point shooter, Wesley Matthews, certified sniper, Anthony Davis, great three-point shooter, LeBron James, a very much improved three-point shooter, Kyle Kuzma can make three-point shots. I mean, all around they got a lot better. And all of these hypotheticals and all of these, the bubble was the bubble and
They got it done.
whatever that means, they won the championship. And what's funny to me is that like people say like, oh, they got a cakewalk. It's a cakewalk because they're that much better than everyone else. It's not a cakewalk because those teams are bad. It's because they're so much better that people are like, wow, they have to play the Lakers. Well, it's like, all right, so we'll just not be a team then. We'll just not exist.
The cakewalk comments, and I know people like who aren't intelligent, such as Skip Bayless, say they avoided the Clippers. They absolutely did not avoid the Clippers. They were actually waiting for the Clippers to finish off the Denver series. The cakewalk comes from not from them being that much better than everyone, but the fact that both the Clippers and the Bucks, and you can even argue the Celtics, I think the Celtics are on paper better than Miami, they all choked. Right?
But
that's not the Lakers' fault. That is not the Lakers' fault.
Those teams, we wouldn't choke. We don't have the capability to choke. We're not a choking team. Clippers choked. Why? Because they're not as good as us. Celtics choked. Not us. All these teams, they choke because they're not complete. Our team, complete team, best player in the NBA. Like there's a bunch of like, if this happens, they won't be that good, or if this happens, they won't be this good. But I mean, there's no way without having any emotional bias towards it that anyone could say that the Lakers aren't the favorite to win the title.
Oh, they're 100% the favorite on paper, as the Clippers were last season.
But it's not about on paper.
No, they're the favorites.
They're the favorites on paper.
They're the favorites last year.
Yeah, no, I know. But
my point is, if I'm a betting man, and I am a betting man, I'm taking the Clippers.
Love it, Jackson. But yeah, the whole cakewalk narrative, it was an easier path, but it's not the Lakers' fault. They played in front of them, and they beat them.
They lucked out. And if I'm basing my predictions for the new year, I wouldn't take the Lakers to win the title.
I definitely would. I would definitely.
Also, I want to pose one more question. This is just totally random. When is LeBron going to slow down? Do we have any clue?
20.
When Bronny gets in the league, he'll take a break.
I don't know. Like it's ridiculous. Fair play to him, and I don't like him that much anymore because, Laker fans and LeBron fans uniting is just one of the worst things I've ever seen in my lifetime, and I'm living through a pandemic as we speak.
Now get us to our favorite part of the segment.
No, not yet.
I gotta say some stuff.
Yeah,
I'm gonna try to keep as unbiased as I can.
Oh, Dylan.
So that's the best player right there in the NBA.
PJ Tucker is sick.
LeBron is the best player in the NBA today. It's not a question. He's the best player.
Agreed.
He earned it.
He's a top 5 player.
Top 2 all time.
Right?
Yes.
And then you add Schroeder, who averaged 18, second 6th man of the year in voting, and then reigning 6th man of the year in Montrez. That's 89 points per game in a season where the Lakers are obviously not going to play LeBron that much in the start. This is a team that's built around LeBron getting some rest and LeBron having some assets around him. This is the deepest team LeBron has ever had. I saw what LeBron did with dumpster fire and
7 or 18?
The sweep in the finals against the Warriors. I think that's 18.
That was disgusting. Yeah. 07 was pretty gross too. But I'll let you finish.
He's the best player in the world, and I think that's what makes this team the best team in the NBA. If he's playing on this team and he's next to another top 5 guy, and they can just shoot the lights out now, like they could just score the basketball at will, I don't think there's any team that can stop them.
I still, you said Schroeder averages 18. He joins this team. We saw, and again, Marcus Morris averaged almost 20 on the Knicks. It's the Knicks, empty stats. He went to average 10 or 12 a game. So Harrell I think is going to lose stats because I think Gasol is going to play more minutes when the games matter the most because Gasol knows how to play defense and grab a rebound. Well, but again, like I said, LeBron won the championship. The league runs through him. The way I saw it last year, Kawhi's the best player in the league. He just won the championship. I'm wrong. LeBron's the best player in the league. They won the ring. He led the way. So until he gets dethroned, I can't say anything else. We just have to wait and see. But we all know where my heart lies.
And
Now we got to look at the graphs real quick, I believe. This is our rankings.
We'll get into our graphs. So the way we broke it down was we each put in our own rankings for the teams, and we got an average for the teams, and that's how we put our rankings. And so basically the graph shows that panel is pretty consistent with a lot of them. You see some outliers, me having Portland way out there, Jackson having the Denver Nuggets pretty low. But as you can see, the Eastern Conference teams really tend to sag at the bottom of the table, and but they're really heavy up there with the Bucks, Nets, and Celtics and Heat. So looking forward to see what the standings really look like in the first couple weeks of the season, but hopefully this preseason will give us somewhat of an indicator.
Yep. I just think the standings are going to be a wild card given, the bug. And I think the regular season is going to be just ridiculous, the amount of rescheduling. It's going to be interesting, but, I just hope everyone stays safe.
Well, and the schedule comes out today as well, so we'll get to do a little preview of that.
We could do a little preview on that one.
Yeah.
Favorite part of the segment, everybody.
All right, so I'll start it off. What's Latrell Sprewell doing here? On December 4th, I believe, 1997, he got suspended a full year for choking and threatening to kill his coach, PJ Carlesimo. That's just a fun one. Latrell Sprewell, he was supposed to be really good and just ended up being decent, but there you go. Latrell Sprewell choked PJ Carlesimo. And who had the Orlando Magic statistic?
I had the Orlando Magic. So on this day, 1996, the Orlando Magic lost 84-57 to the Cleveland Cavaliers. They shot 33% from the field. Yeah, 57 points. At the time, it was the lowest ever.
Yeah.
It's been taken away, but at the time it was. Gerald Wilkins led them with 10 points, team high, 33% from the field, which honestly I thought was a little high, but they had 44 turnovers. 44.
Wow.
That's 11 per quarter.
Entire starting front court.
That's just awful. All-time bad team performance, clearly. Good job, Orlando. You're still terrible. 25 years later.
All right, let's get that.
All right, I'll end it off with future Hall of Famer Stephen Curry. 2,000th career three-pointer. He did that in 597 games, which, just to put that into perspective, that's 225 games fewer than the next person.
Let's see what Duncan Robinson has to say about
that. Duncan.
Yeah, but he washed Ray Allen.
There's 8 players that have more than 2,000 career made three-pointers, and he did that first in 200 less games.
He's the best shooter of all time.
Yeah, now that they're not on an annoying super team, it's a lot easier to respect Steph Curry and his game. I still don't like the Warriors, but at bare minimum, you have to have respect. As much as you can dislike a team, you have to respect the talent they have, this and that. Steph's elite. I mean,
hey, we're going to see how good he really is this year because he's got no one around him.
Hey, Andrew Wiggins, come on. It's the year. This is the year.
He's got no one.
This is the year.
Well, praying for everyone's health this season so we can see it at its full capacity. Hope everyone stays safe. And I will see you, gentlemen, soon for episode 4 next week.